this video, I'm sharing how I made 10 dining booths. This was my biggest project from designs on paper to reality in a restaurant. Here is the main shape of the booth. I utilize angles to accommodate the foot kick, which is a 20-degree angle, and the recline or pitch, which is a 12-degree angle. The skeleton of the booth is made up of 4 parts. The B shape, I'm going to call it, the backrest area, the seat section, and the bottom stretchers. This B shape I had cut at my local wood shop on their CNC machine. So unfortunately, I'm not going to go over how to create this shape, but essentially just do this. Based off of the measurements I provided, measure it out on plywood and cut it out with a jigsaw. Use a guide to keep straight lines. I started with cutting all the strips. In the backrest, there's 3 different sizes, a large, a medium, and a small. You should add 1/4 of an inch to this at least, because we're going to have to add a bevel cut later. And these are for the seat and stretchers. In the end, you should have one pile like this. Your dimensions could be different than mine based off of your needs, and my booth is 4 feet long. 2 front seat strips need a bevel cut matching the kick angle. Keep the bevel cut. You can bring your board to the kick and trace it out. Or you can use a T-bevel and transfer that to your table saw or board. When adding pocket holes to boards with bevel cuts, make sure to add it to the correct face. The backrest strips get holes on the wide face of the board, and the seat strips get holes on the thinner face. I started assembling one, and then I realized that the middle cutout should have been shorter than the outer 2. There's gonna be 3 of these. The middle one should have been shorter. That way when I put in the seat, it sits in a little bit, not completely on top. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut 1 inch and 3/4 off of the middle one, so 10 of them. I have 10 of these. So what I've done so far is that I just followed this line, and then I traced it down some, and I cut out 2 blocks that are 1 inch and 3/4, because that's how far down I want the seat to go. All right, I'm gonna cut off. So it does fit well. I realized I also had to cut the backrest to make room for the backboard. But did I realize this in time before I assembled it all again? No. I discovered a problem. I can move all these back 3/4 of an inch, the thickness of the plywood, so that it just sits in flush. So that means I also have to cut this in 3/4 of an inch too. So I have to take this all apart. I'm just frustrated that I didn't foresee this. Now I'm gonna repeat that 8 more times. All right. When assembling, I used one of the strips as a space block to keep his stretchers at equal height. Easy and removes measuring. And here has to be the width of the plywood. When you find one, lock it in. I'm gonna measure that they're the same. 18. Okay. When you're assembling, if you are gonna have a back to your booth, at least leave space, the thickness of your material in the back, so that way when it goes in, it sits flush. Make sure you do that to all the support pieces, and you leave enough space at the bottom for your material to sit flush later. And then also for here to sit flush when you put the backrest. So. Use a piece that has the bevel cut to go with the foot kick. That's gonna go here. This one up with the middle template. Now just use the regular one that's square on each side. My pocket holes. Since I was making a lot of booths, I used this board as a template to mark where I'm going to do the pocket holes, and I could just use this for every board hereafter. You screwed it. Told you. I'm going to add a trimming piece to cover all this stuff on top, all my edges. So mine's going to be 2 1/8 inch wide, and then long should be 42 inches. Okay, I hate to say it, but this all could have been one board instead of two. But guess what? I forgot again that I should have cut the back of the B shape, the one that's in the middle. I should have cut that one too to leave room for the board, but I wasn't gonna disassemble 10 booths, so. But if you're gonna add a back to your booth, you have to make sure to leave a gap for the front and the back. That way your back just sits in flush too, just like the back, just like the rest in the front. I countersunk screws on top because there was a little bit of give at the top and I wanted it to sit perfectly. This is the wood that I use for the trimming. Would I recommend it? No. If you're just making 1 or 2 benches, just use solid wood. Do not use plywood for the trimming, but since I'm doing a lot, plywood was a cheaper way for me to go. If you use solid wood, you don't have to worry about hiding edges, so I recommend using solid wood for the trimming. I'm making a template to figure out the angles for the trim. I took my trimming and I just traced it all around. When you're doing the trimming and you want to find these angles, there's 2 things you could do. You can get your speed square, line it up to the pivot point, and just pick a spot where you want your line to go. So let's just say I want it here. Okay. Now I'm just gonna turn my speed square till the pivot point matches the bottom of the line and lines up with the line that I drew, and that's about 30 degrees, and you'll read that over here. So that's 30. And the other side you do the same thing, but you have to have it out here. Turn it 39. So you might have to play with this when you're at your miter saw so that it matches up perfectly, but the angle will be around there. Another way is if you have a T-bevel. Mine is digital. It doesn't have to be. I'm gonna bring this to here. Then you would just lock this in and transfer that to your board. But mine is digital, so I'm just gonna reference this. I'm saying it's at 0. Now here, let's see if we get the same thing. Pretty close. It's 28.9. I mean, it's almost 29. And then for the other side, 37. And that's what you would transfer to your miter saw, or you can transfer this straight to your board. Now I'm gonna cut this trim all to length. This one's easy, it's just 2 straight cuts. I'm gonna start off by cutting all the bottom trimming. That was the final length of that's gonna be 17 9/16. Each of my trimming pieces is 1.5 inches wide, and I just cut these to about 4 feet long. So I'll be able to get 2 pieces out of each one. So what I'm gonna do is cut an angle on each side, then I'll cut them to length after. So here I have it set to 33 degrees. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this angle. This one's an acute angle, 60-degree angle. I'm going to set it to 45 to start. cut the 60-degree angle, I have to do 60 minus 45, so that's 15 degrees. So I'm going to set this to 15 now. Wait. Yeah. To make this safe, I'm going to use double-sided tape. I'm going to get a scrap piece to practice. This was my test run, so it should match. For this angle, the 55-degree angle, so I have my saw set up at 10. So 55 minus 45, 10. Keep in mind which way the trim is going to go on to the booth. So the cut's going to go this way, so the face will be facing you. So you're going to align the point, again like before, with the tip of this one. The corners together. Make sure it's flush against your fence. I'm sure there's a lot of ways to do this, but this was the only way I could think of to do it. If you know another way, please share with me. Okay. So this was the shape. So I just outlined it on here. Now I'm gonna line up this corner with this corner right here. And I'm kind of also gonna use the tape to guide me to keep it straight. What I don't like about this is that I'm gonna have to keep changing the tape because I have to do 20 of these, so it's gonna take a while. There you go. Now I'm adding all of my trimmings. So before I actually glue it on, I'm just doing a dry run, making sure that everything will line up okay. And it seems like these pieces that we're going to work out together. So I'm going to start by gluing down the longest side. I did a quick sand before on all around all the edges to have a cleaner surface to work with. I'm using liquid nails as my adhesive. I'm making sure it's lined up with the top because you're going to see that, not the bottom. I'm still brad nailing it to be secure because I don't have enough clamps to do all of this. I'll just fill in the nail holes with spackle. Get all the glue out. I chose to do wood filler to fill all the plywood edges. It was a lot of work. I would never do this again. But if you're only making one booth, it's fine. But since I just had to do so much, it was crazy. So I already filled this one with plastic wood filler. I did all the edges of the trimming and I covered all the brad nail holes on the surface. So I did there, I did here, I did all, anywhere where you would see an edge, I covered it. The seats felt pretty flimsy to me, so I wanted to add X's under them to strengthen the seats. If you decide to do this, I recommend using something stronger than plywood. A viewer brought to my attention that plywood has no grain, of course, therefore it wouldn't be as strong as using something like 2x4s. The reinforcement will be stronger and it'll last longer. I used plywood because that's what I had and I honestly didn't know better. When doing this, just be careful of where you start. Start on the inner part of the line and keep going till you reach the other side. But just be careful not to cut too much. After checking that it fits well, I'm going to mark which side is going to be the front and the back, because I don't want to lose track when I'm adding pocket holes. I have everything put together now, so now I need to sand all the booths. This took a really long time.
So I was thinking to join these together, that I would add a board here.
So I have a lot of these scrap pieces left over from the project, so I'm going to use these as my joiner pieces. You use a piece like that, like 6 inches long. It's around 36 degrees. For your joiner pieces, you can do whatever you want, and I would love to hear what suggestions you have to join booths together. All these pieces are going to be under and out of sight in the booth, so I'm going to seal them first. And then I painted them black, which is the color of the booths. So now let's get to painting. Absolutely need a respirator for this.
I don't want to do it.
I went in off camera to get a feel for spraying the booths, and let me tell you, it looked like I had a church in my yard. I cleaned everything, and then I put all the booths on these little boards to get them off of the ground. I do not know what I'm doing with the spray gun. I wanted to use this so I can get the priming done as fast as possible. The primer had shellac in it and it would clog the machine a lot. It was just a nightmare for me. So I only did one coat with the spray gun. After one coat, the primer looked so bad. It looked like stucco. It dries really fast, and I should have been rolling as I was spraying to get those uneven parts. So I had to sand all of this again to get it even. I also went back and had to add in some wood filler on some parts that were uneven. So I'm gonna go right now and sand those parts down that I added wood filler. Then I need to do another coat of primer. Man. I'm not using what this paint recommends to use as the roller, just because the store didn't have it. So I'm just using a high density foam roller. It's going fine. I wouldn't know what the difference if I were to use a mohair one. That's the one that it says to use. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. They just didn't have it at the store. I'm like, well, I can't wait to order it online. I gotta do this. The next coat I did, I used a roller and it went way better. Smoother, cleaner. I should have just did that from the beginning. over 30 hours of sanding went into this. It was terrible. Terrible.
I'm just using a black paint, and it's an interior eggshell enamel. Finally get to painting.
I'm gonna start doing all the trimming, and I'm also gonna do this part. I'm gonna go down here with gold. I'm gonna do up in gold too, but I'm not gonna be very like precise with it. I'm just gonna make sure I get this, and if I go in here with the gold, which I will, I'm just gonna go over it with black anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm not worried about it at all, actually. I prepped this, I cleaned it, it's been sanded like a million times. So I'm gonna go over with the gold right now. Well, that didn't work. Okay, it doesn't look great so far, but don't worry. First coat, it'll get better. It'll get better. If you want laser straight lines on anything that you're painting, you have to use clear caulking. Try not to put too much, just put it on, wipe it off with your finger, and then go in with your paint. And then you have to work fast so that the caulking doesn't dry. Once you're done painting, you're gonna pull off the tape while it's still wet. This is what happens when you don't use clear caulking. The paint gets under the tape and you're left with edges like this. I did half of the booths only with tape because I didn't know about using caulking, and this was a result of that. Okay, this did not go well. I'm gonna have to do this again. I'm gonna use frog tape this time. I'm gonna use caulking. Now we get straight laser lines. I'm adding a back design to 2 of my booths. I laid a straight board down onto the back of the booth, and I lined it with the edges at the bottom and at the top center point. I'm laying tape down, and I'm going to do this on the other side as well. I want the tape to meet at the center point, so I'm going to cut that out. I'm using a satin water-based polyurethane to seal all the booths. These sponges were great. They're double-sided and they made the process a lot smoother. Making sure to put the angle side down and just line it up. Now make sure that you have the wider face of your seat board facing down, because this is going to be the side that gets the foam and the upholstery. You just need a serrated knife. A bread knife works fine. It comes out cleaner if you do it all in the downstroke. Put all your effort in the pull, not the push. Kind of like when you're sawing a log. People have to know that. Where's the kick? The kick's over here, so I'm gonna put the clean side on the kick. As far as like line it up. Okay, let it fall. Just maneuver it quickly. Since I have one cut to size, I'm just going to use that to trace the others that I cut. When deciding what length to cut the fabric, I essentially just added 10 inches on top of the length of my board. The foam is 2 inches thick, the board is 3/4 of an inch thick, then I essentially need 6 inches of overhang on the bottom of the board, so it comes out to about 27 inches wide. For all 10 booths, I used 7.5 yards. My husband took care of most of the upholstery for me, and this was his first time, and I think he did a really good job, so please be nice. I hope you're able to learn from this video, and we're both very happy with how they came out. To protect the bottom of the legs and to add some grip to them, I bought a roll of rubber. This rubber, I'm going to cut it to be the width of the legs. It came with this knife, so I'm just going to cut it to size. And the roll is adhesive. It's essentially like a sticker, so I can just stick it to the bottom of the legs. But if you're going to add it to furniture or to something that's going to get moved around a lot, you should add additional glue to it, or else it's going to come off. I didn't add any glue because these are going to be in place for the most part, and I can easily replace them if they get worn out.
Using 1/4 inch
1¼ inch screws. These are the connectors that I'm using to join the two booths together. So I'm just gonna get the screws ready. Take these over to the booth. These aren't meeting flush, so I'm gonna put something under it. That way they're even. Yeah, that's good. Bottom. Oh my god! Oh, there's a spider, bro! And it's big! Hold on. See that shit? Oh my god! Okay. I don't even want to get in there anymore. When I installed these joiner pieces, I put it right in the middle of the line where the booths meet up, and I drilled one side onto each side of the booth. I was very cautious not to drill too deep as I didn't want it to come out on the other side. There's probably better ways to do this. This is what I thought of. It held it together okay, but I would love to hear other suggestions from you guys on how to join these things together. For it to hold together well, you really need to align it well when you first clamp it, and it should stay. Now the beveled edge I can still feel, so that's gonna go on the seat side. I completely forgot to record installing the seats, but all I did was screw from under up into the board at 3 different points. That's all I did. And here are the booths in the restaurant. This was such a surreal moment to be here, to see them inside, to see people eating in them, to have lunch in there with my friend and my husband. Oh, it was amazing. This was such an incredible experience. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something, anything from this. Please subscribe and like the video. This took so much time. Thank you.